Hello, I'm Dr. Erin Gravel, and thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to talk about mental health because it is a Mental Health Awareness Month. And last week, I talked about mental health and how women actually are twice as likely as men to experience issues with their mental health in the ways of depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and other things. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about my story with mental health and share that with you in the hopes that maybe some of the things that I've learned through my journey with mental health would be useful to some of you out there. So thank you so much for joining me. And I just wanted to start out by saying that I have had extreme anxiety for the past almost 20 years. I had my first panic attack probably as a kid and didn't realize that that was what I was having. My folks had taken me to I want to say it was the 75th anniversary of the Golden Gate being built. And it was a huge fireworks show. It was a beautiful evening. And I had never been to a big fireworks show before. And I spent the whole evening underneath my dad's raincoat crying because all I could think in my head was that we were going to be hit by a firework, and that all I could imagine were the newspaper headlines the next day of um, this family basically being hurt by these fireworks from falling from the sky. And that's all I could picture. I kept picturing it over and over and over again in my head. And that was the first time that I realized, wow, something seems to be a little bit off here. And I wasn't quite sure why that was. And so the next time was when I was getting a presentation in high school. I remember kind of freezing and feeling really like shaky, and my voice got shaky, and I like was breathing fast, and I was talking really fast. And I actually stopped in the middle of the presentation and said, "Can I get a drink of water?" Which actually felt good, but made it worse because I went and got the drink, and then I had to go back and finish the presentation. And so that was another like, why did that happen then? And why, what's going on? So I'd had those two couple of events. And so backing up just a little bit to give you some background on myself and how I believe anxiety had formed in my life and why it had formed in my life. I grew up in a small town, as many people do, and I was very overweight as a child. And I was made fun of excessively and bullied. Back then, we didn't call it bullying, but that's definitely what it was. And I also had several instances where I actually was afraid for my safety because of the bullies at my school. And so I basically was bullied, I think, from third grade through eighth grade. And then when I started high school, I actually just grew taller and kind of slimmed down. And I didn't do anything differently, but I definitely looked different. And I was much thinner than I had been ever. And so I went back to school, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, you look so great." And, they wanted to be my friend. A lot of the bullies that had been so, so, so mean to me wanted to be my friend. And I definitely got the message in that in order to have friends, in order to be accepted, I had to look a certain way. I had to um, be thin, wear certain clothes, all those things that adolescents go through to try to fit in and be accepted. And I was finally fitting in and being accepted. But at the same time, I had this real stress of, do these people really like me for me, or do they just like me because I look a certain way? And so, actually, a lot of the bullies that had bullied me that were particularly vicious, I never was friends with in school. And I always think it's funny when they try to friend me on Facebook because I honestly don't think they remember. I think that they probably bullied so many people, they don't remember what they said or did to me that was so hard. And so, anyway, so I think that is part of my upbringing that has influenced my anxiety in my life. That's not the only thing, of course, but it definitely fueled this distrust in myself, this feeling that I wasn't good enough in certain ways. I wasn't able to, that I'm only likable if I'm a certain way, if I do certain things a certain way, all those kinds of things that, again, kids go through but eventually grow out of. And I didn't grow out of that. I kept that with me because my transformation was so quick I was the same person on the inside, but not on the outside. And I was still who I'd always been internally. So when I saw myself externally, internally, I still looked the same to myself. And then there came the fear of gaining weight and not being accepted again. And so that definitely fueled it. Fast forward to college, and I developed an eating disorder, which a lot of young ladies do at that age. And again, that is a mental health issue. It's believing that life is so out of control that you can control your eating to control the world around you. And again, a lot of different issues and relationships and friendships in my feelings about my self worth because of my looks and being afraid to gain weight. All of those things played into it. And so I developed an eating disorder. And what I learned as I continued to lose weight from, I was anorexic, from anorexia, is that people liked me more the smaller I was. That was really, really difficult. So again, it kind of went back to that message I got in high school that if I look a certain way, people are going to like me and be my friend. Then what I found is the smaller I was, the more people liked me. And they would keep saying, "You look so great. You look so great." Now, this was the 90s. This was the late 90s when really, really thin was in. I think it still probably is in, hopefully a little bit healthier, but still, that was the message I was getting from people and continued to get from people. And so I learned to make myself small. I learned to play small. I learned to restrict my eating, restrict my voice, restrict my opinions so that people wouldn't feel intimidated or feel like um, I was unlikable. And what that did is it prepared me for a future where I believed that there was only one right way to do things. And that's something I really, it's a lesson I learned, and I learned it the hard way. And I'm so glad I learned it. But there is more than one way to do things. There's so many different ways to do things. And so part of my anxiety was looking towards the future. First of all, anxiety is future based. If you're present in the moment, you're not going to feel anxious and have panic attacks. It's looking forward, looking towards what's going to be happening that actually causes the anxiety and the panic. But if you're able to stay present and stay in your body and breathe, your likelihood of having a panic attack is so much um, smaller than it is if you are thinking in the future, because that's usually where our panic comes from. Anxiety comes from thinking about the future, which could be just a few seconds from now, but it's not being present in the moment. And so when I learned that there were other ways of doing things, and that just because somebody expected me to do something one way and I could do it another way and actually be successful at it and do it well, that helped my anxiety so much. So, one piece of advice I have is if you can look at things you're doing in your life that you think, I have to do this a certain way, and then think, well, why? Who says I have to do it this way? What are some other ways I could do it that maybe save me more time, saves me more money, gives me more time to spend doing things I like maybe self care, taking care of myself. So, really thinking about the messages you've gotten about yourself and your life and how things have to be done. And when I'm saying this, I'm thinking about career, I'm thinking about motherhood, I'm thinking about if you're married, what a wife is supposed to look like, or what a significant other is supposed to look like. If you're not married, do you have to be married? All these things that we assume to be true and that we think have to be a certain way actually don't have to be a certain way. It's the way that works for you. And the only way to find the way that works for you is to try different things and see what feels right. When you are doing things according to other people's standards or according to the way, that's also where anxiety will start to show its head. It's when you're not trusting yourself, your body will tell you. It creates a lot of stress. You release, I believe it's cortisol. And over time, the more cortisol you release into your body and adrenaline into your body, the more you're in this fight or flight situation where you set yourself up to think, oh my gosh, I have to do it this way, I have to do it this way. And then you continue to do that over and over again, and it actually has a really negative impact on your brain and on your nervous system over time. And so it's so important to think about when you have those thoughts in the moment, think, well, is that true? How do I know that's true? What makes that true? Is there another way I can do this that will be just as good, if not better, and works for me? And when you're doing it in the way that works for you, your body will relax and you will feel confident and you'll know you're in the right place doing the right thing at that time. So I'll give you a couple of examples. One example is when I started my doctoral program. I started it because I wanted to work in educational policy making. And so I started a doctoral program that was for people that wanted to go into administration, because usually you go into administration, which means being a principal or a superintendent, then going into administration in a district, and then going on to policy making. Started the doctoral program, loved the doctoral program. It was awesome. About halfway through, I realized I really didn't want to go into administration or policy making, that I missed teaching in the classroom. And so I went to the head of the program and I said, hey, I really want to teach again. And I think the place I need to go is into higher education. And they said, that is not what this program is for. It's for people who want to be administrators. And I said, okay, but it's a doctoral program. Yes, yes. I need a doctorate to get into teaching in higher ed, correct? Yes. Okay, so what can we do to make this program work so that I can go into higher ed? And so it meant I had to problem solve. I had to come up with solutions. I had to create a program that had not been created before for myself so that I could get my doctorate and go into higher education instead of becoming a principal. Now, there were several steps that got me to that point where I realized this is not where I want to go. I don't want to go into administration. And had I not started the program, I never would have gotten to those points and realized that I wanted to go into higher ed. So I'm so glad I did it the way I did it. But when I realized this is not for me, I don't want to be a principal. I don't want to be a superintendent. They're lovely people. It's an amazing job. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. I missed teaching. I wanted to be in the classroom. That's when I listened to myself and thought, I am going to make this work any way I possibly can. And I did. And I am so glad I did, because I've spent the last 11 years working in teacher education and I absolutely love it. I've loved most of the seconds of it. And it's a job that challenges me, and I absolutely just get so much joy out of it and continue to work in teacher ed, just really, really enjoying my job and the relationships I've built. On that same note, as I was going through other life events, so going through a divorce, going through dating again, going through being a single mom, just different life events, I decided I, was not making progress in my personal life the way I wanted to. My professional life was great. It was my personal life I needed some help in. And so I went out and I looked around and I looked at people who had lifestyles that I was like, that's really what I'm interested in. And I started following people like Brene Brown, Glennon Doyle, just these amazing, strong women that were creating lives that they love, and that where they were able to be vulnerable and be their true selves, and talk about the hardships they've had in life while at the same time creating lives that I felt were just amazing. And I decided to start working with a life coach, and I did. And that's what's brought me to here. So I absolutely, again, love being a professor. I love teaching, and I intend on continuing to do that. But at the same time, I also love being a life coach and building my business. And I'm learning so much through doing that. And it doesn't have to be an either or. A lot of experts say it does have to be either or. Either you're this or you're that. And no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do both. And I know I can do both because I have a passion for both, and they both fulfill me in different ways. And they stretch me and help me grow in different ways. And so I'm going to continue to do both and to figure out different ways that I can continue to reach as many people as possible and help as many women as possible create amazing lives, while also continuing to help um, teachers form into fantastic teachers that are going to meet the needs of their students and help their students love to learn and continue to love learning. So again, I don't want to do either or. I want to do both, and that's what I'm going to do. And I don't have to sacrifice one for the other, even though that's what the experts would say I have to do. On another note, I had a little cheat sheet here. So there's more than one way to do things. As a mother, So many ways to do things. It's amazing. And as a single mom, there's so many ways to do things. And I highly encourage you, if you are not happy with where you're at in your career or as a mother or in your relationships, look for people that are doing it the way you want to do it. Don't look for the people that are like, that are on Facebook or Instagram and make it look so perfect just in like the glamorous real part of it. When I say real, I mean like that little snippet of their lives that looks amazing, but it's not really their lives. It's just they want to look great to everybody. Look for the people that are real, that tell you how they've done it, that talk about the struggle, that talk about the hardships, the moments where they really didn't think they were going to make it and they pushed through. Those are the stories that you want to follow, and those are the people where you can look at their lessons and emulate them to make them work for you. Follow as many people as you can that are like that, that really inspire you. So don't look to your neighbor down the street who has the fancy car, fancy house, perfect spouse, 3.5 kids, perfect life, or what they try to make look as the perfect life. Follow the person who's your friend that you know has struggled with things yet shows up and is honest with it and still has a good relationship with their kids. Figure out how they're doing it. Talk to people like that, that have done it and can share with you how they did it and how they continue to do it. And start making some of those changes in your own life. One thing I tell clients is we want the easy fix, and there's no easy fixes. There's small tweaks you can make in your life that will feel somewhat easy, but there's also that point where you're going to have to think, what do I truly want in my life? How am I going to get there? And what can I actually do to make that happen? And that's a lot of work. And it's a lot to go through as far as thinking about it, planning it. And there's so many different organizers you can use to get there. You can work with a psychologist, you can work with a life coach like me, you can work with, you can read really great books and figure it out. But it's not until you figure out what your goals are and where you want to go in life that that anxiety is really going to start um, settling down a little bit, because you'll know what your goals are, what you're headed towards, and that you're doing the things you need to do every day to get you there. So you're being present in today, you're doing those things, knowing that you're taking care of what you need to take care of, and that alone will help you so much with your anxiety. It's definitely helped me. So, a couple of tips of how I do that. Every day, I look at two major things I want to get done for the following day, and I write those down along with a couple of other goals. Those two major things, I make sure I do at least one of them in the morning, the hardest one first. I know I work best in the morning, so I tend to do those things in the morning. I don't even look at email, I don't look at social media until that is done. The only thing I do is that one project and journal in the morning. And sometimes I meditate in the morning and do affirmations as well. I also make sure I get a walk in. But it's really important to have those two things that you want to accomplish every day that's going towards your goal for anxiety. It definitely has helped me. If you have something else that works for you, that's great too. Maybe give it a try. If not, that's okay. There's many different ways to do things. The second thing I want to talk about just really briefly is that who you hang out with matters. When it comes to anxiety, when it comes to life, the 5 people that you hang out with the most on average represent who you are and the things that you care about. So if you find yourself hanging out with people that you really don't enjoy hanging out with, where you feel drained at the end of your time with them, where they're criticizing you, where they're making you feel bad about yourself, really consider how you can limit your time and exposure to those people. We all have people like that we're friends with friends with on Facebook or Instagram, or that are family members. There are so many different ways and strategies that you can create some distance from them that help you. One way you can do it is that on Facebook you can block somebody. If you don't want to block somebody, I believe you can also unfollow them so you don't see their posts, but they won't know that you don't see their posts. One thing that I do just to create more space in my time for my family is I do turn off all notifications on my phone at 8 o'clock at night until 7 o'clock the next morning. And that has been amazing for my anxiety, because that means I'm not getting any updates on anything until the next morning at 7 o'clock, which again gives me that time when I get up to get that first project done and to really start my day off strong, as well as to journal and meditate. So those 5 people that you hang out with the most do matter. They are the people that are going to give you advice. They're the people you're going to go to. They're the people that you're going to spend time with. And if they're not making you happy or bringing you happiness, try to limit your time with them as much as you possibly can. That makes such a difference in your anxiety. It's amazing. Just taking a little bit of a break, a little bit of space from them will make such an amazing difference and give you some clarity on how you can interact with them when you do interact with them. And so that is what I want to leave you with today, is really remembering that there's more than one way to do things, whether it's your profession, being a mother, um, being a friend, being a wife, being a spouse, being whatever it is, there's more than one way to do things. Even in your job, there's more than one way to do things. And it's really looking at what you want in life and how you're going to get there and how you're spending your time to create, to meet the goals that you've set up for yourself. And then the other is thinking about the people around you, those 5 core people, and what they bring to your life and the happiness that they bring to your life. And if they're not bringing you happiness, how you can separate yourself from them, or how you can have a conversation with them about it if you feel like that will be productive as well, and try to improve that relationship with them. So, thank you so much for joining me today on the live. I really look forward to these lives and to talking with you. Please feel free to leave any questions in the comments section, or any ideas or any connections that resonated with you. Would love to hear from you, and I will see you next week. And if you're not already part of our Facebook group, I will go ahead and leave a link to our Facebook group in the comments as well. Sounds like my dog is scratching, so I have to go. Have a fabulous rest of your week. Thank you.